Yesterday, Lisa and I went to Alpine Nursery. Lisa got it in her mind that it's springtime and she wanted some flowers, and we have this gigantic pot right in front of our front door, and she said, "Mike, I want to replant that. It's springtime." And she just got this vision together of what she wanted, wrote down a few things that she was looking for, and took me with her to Alpine Nursery. And it was incredible, really. I mean, you know, the flowers were beautiful, and there were just so many different things that, you know, you don't normally see in your yard. I mean, there are thousands of different types of plants and trees, and we just took probably a half hour, 45 minutes, and walked around and looked at stuff. It's almost like going out on a date. And I thought to myself, this must have been what Adam and Eve felt like when God put them in the garden and said, "Tend this garden, make something happen." And it must have been so beautiful, but could you imagine the first couple of weeks, the first couple of months, maybe even the first year, just exploring, seeing the goodness of God, seeing all the beautiful things that God had created for them. But God had called them to a deeper purpose. He had really called them to leave the garden, to go out into the world, to subdue it, to make something of it. And then the idea for Eve was she was supposed to fill it. And, you know, all of a sudden they found themselves shrinking back away from this big purpose. So much so that they were all the way back into the center of the garden, next to a tree that they weren't supposed to be near. And of course, we all know the story. Adam and Eve partook of the fruit of that tree. They weren't supposed to. That was the first sin. And theologians have debated over the years, what was that sin? And it's real simple. The sin was just simply not obeying God's big ideas of who we are. God has a big plan for our lives. In other words, He sees us and we're His kids, and He goes, "You guys are incredible. You need to do something amazing with your life. Don't live life small. Live life big." And so God put them in this garden, not just so they could enjoy a garden, but to tend it, to work it, to learn how to make it flourish, so they could get that spirit into their heart. So that when they went out into the big bad world, dealt with difficult circumstances, dealt with big stuff in life, because they were going to live a lot of life. They were going to have to go through a lot of stuff, raise kids, you know, start nations, I mean, create a world. They were going to have to go through some big things. But they would always remember that the garden is not something that was around them, but something that they got in them. So that everything from that point on that came at them as a challenge would have to face the big vision on the inside of them. If you really think about it, what God was doing was He was not only trying to get Adam and Eve into a garden, but more importantly, He was trying to get the garden into Adam and Eve.